Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Wednesday. It is October the 31st. It is also Halloween here in the U.S. I don't know if they celebrate that elsewhere or not, but I'm guessing probably not. But anyway, doesn't matter. Another big rally today. We had a nice trend up, a little correction, and then another trend up. I looked at this as probably the original midpoint in the price action. Notice you got one leg up, and then if you look for a measured leg up, we got really close to that. We may not quite have made that. It doesn't look like we quite made that. No, we came up looks like 3 or 4 points short, but that would have been my first target. And then you might have, once we started going higher again, you might have looked here and we still came up. It would have given you basically almost the same thing, and you can see we still came up 3 or 4 points short. So didn't matter, and you can see subsequently there's a nice sell-off here. And that's generally what happens. If you don't make it, there's a big sell-off. And we actually didn't make it here, and there was a nice sell-off, and then we went up and didn't make it again, another nice sell-off. But anyway, it was mostly uphill. We had a steep one, too steep, then a little bit flatter, and then we overshot it, corrected. Still shot up for a new high again, and really all you needed to do was use the short-term stuff in here, and that got you into 2 o'clock, and then we sold off at 2 o'clock. We still ended up above 2,700 today, but notice we closed just under that, maybe 2685 yesterday, and we closed just above 2,700 today. But let me back out. Not as many trades today. There's a lot of setups, but I didn't have a lot of good signal bars today, and that that scared me away from some of these trades. So anyway, maybe your chart looked a little better. There's probably some other trades on there that were possibilities based on your signal bars and so forth, but I just didn't have any really good signal bars. So um, anyway, let's back out and talk about the trades, and we'll work on through it tonight. Oh, I did want to share with you. I read an email to you yesterday, and that gentleman wrote back to me again today, and what he said was just um, very important, and I want to read that. Um, he writes me back and says, Mac, if anyone ever asks you how I got to where I am, feel free to let them know I did it exactly the way you suggested. Let me read that again. Feel free to let them know I did it exactly the way you suggested. And I say this all the time, and people never listen to me. But anyway, he goes on to say, I spent years on the sim trading every day that I could. I bought your manual in 2013, so that's been 5 years. He doesn't say specifically when he started to really have success, but it's obvious he's having really good success now. But each day I would compare my end of day chart to your video and studying where I went wrong. I've watched every single chart review video of yours for maybe 4 years consistently. In the end, there are no shortcuts in this business. All the best. And so there it is. Exactly how I spell it out every day. Exactly what I tell people. You can't learn this overnight, but if you stay with it, and the real key is not trying to trade live until you prove you can do it on the simulator. Get on the simulator every day, get as much screen time as you can, and then at the end of the day, that's when your real work starts. That is when your study time comes in. And you want to study every day, every single trade, and study your chart. And that's exactly what this gentleman did. And I read you his success yesterday. So anyway, I just wanted to share that second part of his message because it's so important. And I tell you that all the time, but people just do not listen. They think they can read that. They think they're going to be smarter than everybody else. They're going to read that manual and study, and in a few days, a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months, they're going to be ready to go, and they jump in their live and they become donators. Don't be a donator. Stay on the sim. And when you can double I suggest a $10,000 sim account. Start with that. You can set that to whatever you want. And when you take that 10,000 and you double that following the rules, not doubling down, not taking wild chances, not letting trades run against you and come back, but trading exactly by the rules. When you can turn that $10,000 sim account into $20,000, then you're ready to try live. And then you'll probably still have a small learning curve because there's a little bit of difference between trading on the sim and trading live emotionally. As far as the, I can't hardly tell a sim trade from a live trade anymore. The price, you're trading with the same price action if you have a live account that goes to sim. So you're trading on the same live price action. They've got the software where it works almost exactly like the real thing. And so it's the closest thing to live trading you'll ever do. And if you can do it on the sim, following the rules, then you'll be able to do it on live eventually. So doesn't mean you'll be able to jump straight to live and have instant success, but if you can double a 10K sim account, then you can do this live. Trust me, it's no difference. So anyway, let's talk about the trades. You had to be patient this day because the first solid trade was almost 9 o'clock this morning, just after 8:45. But there's a couple in here that I like that I would probably take, and I'll point both of those out early on. There's one right around 8 o'clock, just after 8 o'clock, right before the regular open. But notice we're just going sideways here. You got a low, you test it once, you test it twice. This is really your signal bar, but this little inside bar you could use when prices break higher. Your stop still has to go below here because this gets you in at the low of what looks like a trading range, and there's plenty of room to get out. So I like that trade. It's right off the EMA, it's right off the midline, and it's right off the support resistance. It's a double test. Several reasons to like that trade. I like that trade. I marked it green because it's not a perfect signal bar down here, but that's close enough with all that reasoning. And so I did mark it at least green. And we're working across here, and I just don't see, I don't think you want to go short up here yet. This is a possibility right here on a short, but it's just not a very good signal bar. This is not a good signal bar. That you do have room to get out, but and then we have this little failed break. It's the first break of the trend line of this two-tiered channel as well. And look, you're a good bit away from the EMA. It's the first time you've really been away from the EMA to the short side since yesterday afternoon, basically. So there's almost a sure thing that this thing is going to come back and test that, but it's probably coming back to test the breakout. Generally, I'd like to wait on a higher low, but you can see we didn't get one, and we hadn't been getting many lately. It just reverses and goes. So that right there was a trade of the day if you want to be a little aggressive. And notice that that was the low. That was the low of the day, I believe. Did we get below that later this afternoon? 2704 maybe. So that might have been the low of the day. Now we actually went a little bit lower than that late this afternoon, but that was the low of the move to the high today. And so from 2704 to 2736, that's a 32-point move if you waited it, held it all day, and you would have had a runner right there. And so you could have, if you wanted, you could have at least ridden it up till we overshot the top here, and you expect it to reverse, because that's a nice two-legged correction right in the middle of, you figure that may be the middle of the pattern. You usually will have at least a two-legged correction in there. But I like that trade. I marked it green because it's not a perfect setup, but it's a trade I like. And you hear me talk about those failed breaks lower and failed break highs. They're often the high or low of the day, or an important low or an important high. Same thing. So then we move up. You don't get another chance here. You back up first entry, back up second entry, or second entry long. Nice bullish bar right at the key entry point there, or right at the EMA. And a lot of times you get two legs up, and a lot of times you go flat and make a flatter one, and it's good for a scalp. Comes back. There's a high or low here, but it's not a very good signal bar. But then you get a failed second entry short here. Really small bar. It's a breakout pullback long. I like that one. Quick, easy move. Then it backs up again. Notice it comes back first entry, comes back, and then there's a second entry in there too. But just not a very good signal bar. And you've already getting a break of that trend channel line right there. That's a little bit iffy, but notice that's a little congestion area. It's a little failed break lower. It's similar to this, but it's not exactly. It's not close enough to be a repeat pattern. So I didn't mark it, but look at it take off. Same thing. And notice what's going on here. We're moving up. There's a first entry. You get a second leg up, and it breaks lower. You get a second entry, and it fails real quickly. Normally, I'd mark that blue. If it was back to this EMA, I'd probably mark. Plus, it's a look at the high pullback first entry, pullback second entry. It's a second entry long. It's a failed second entry short. There's two pretty much measured legs up there. The only problem is it's not back to the EMA. It's right into this what looked like a trend line, but this could be a midline. Um, this is one you might take. So it turns out to be a quick, easy scalp. Then we're kind of moving along. There is a failed second entry long here. We're not that far away from the EMA here. So I didn't mark it, but that's another one you could really argue to be green. It's a double top, so it's basically a lower, considered a lower high after a big overshoot of that channel. So I will mark it green. I like that trade. I looked at that trade really hard today, but it's not a perfect setup, and so you're taking a little bit of a chance. There's a little bit aggressive. So then we're moving down. Notice that eye. Come back and test it once, test it twice. This actually broke higher in turn. It's a big engulfing bar. It's a huge bar, but I still like the setup and the trade. And you're going to have a lot of these, so I mark them anyway. Then it moves down, then a pullback first entry, pullback second entry. If I'd had a good signal bar, that'd have been another one right there because that's your first close outside this channel. And we're probably going to move to a new low, but it's just not a very good signal bar. I had a lot of those today. I don't know what the deal was, but it's just one of those days where you don't get good signal bars. And of course it bounces and you never really get a chance to enter this. And then you make two legs down, and this was really tempting to go long right here. You got a two-legged correction, but notice we're making lower high here and you're making lower lows. At this point, you need to be looking for a measured leg down from right here. So I wouldn't be thinking long here, especially with that trend line, and it was holding here until it looked like a little bit overshoot. That does mean there's a chance that it would go higher, or you'd get that you're going to break out the other side, but it actually corrected first before it broke out. But still, this trade would have worked. So I mean, you could almost argue for a long there, but when it failed, I like it to the short side. The only problem is we're way down here, still not back to the EMA, so I don't really like it there either. So honestly, you could argue for it to be green up and then green down. You made a higher low here, but not a very good signal bar. Then now you've got a second entry short back at the key entry point, but a very neutral bar again, and you still got this trend line working up. Would have worked, but this is your better entry on your lower high right here. And that bar is so neutral, I really didn't want to mark it, but it was an engulfing bar. It actually broke higher and turned and went out the other side, and so you don't know at that point it's a big engulfing bar, and you don't know that it's going to end neutral like that. And so in that case, I probably would enter there, and I like it to the downside. And again, you're looking for a measured move, and notice we went right to that a couple of ticks further, and then we bounce. Notice the new low, first entry, we push through the MA, pull back second entry. So now we've got a close out. Now we've got a reversal pattern. Look at that nice bullish bar. First, I hadn't had many good signal bars. That's a nice one. Pull back, then first entry, second entry again, confirms the trend line. Again, another nice signal bar for a change. Go long right there. And you actually pull back again right here. And so look, what that is a little breakout pull back long. There's a lot of resistance across it. There's kind of a little support resistance area right across there, and you can see that, but it's a little breakout pullback long, plus it bounces off the key entry point. Very bullish, and we're making higher highs and higher lows, and you may not get many second entries in here. Same thing here. It's really two legs back, but that's just so many bars stacked up. It's a little bit congestive, but it's another nice signal bar right there. I almost like it, but I'd probably say, we've been away from the EMA for a little while now, and it's congestive. It's dangerous. It's a little bit risky. So, but I'll mark it. Same thing here. Once again, this is just a repeat of what we've already had, except it's a first entry. So you might have again wanted to go long right there. But I definitely, when we got way up here, I wouldn't be going long away from that key entry point. So, and this thing just rockets straight down. But notice what happens. You're moving down first entry, you get a measured leg down second entry. So and that's the first break of that big trend line. So there's a second entry long. You're a little bit away from the EMA. I like that just to try to ride it back if nothing else. This thing takes off. And then watch what happens. First entry short, pull back second entry short. It fails. And plus, look at the new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So it's a second entry short, a failed second entry short. And I like that one. It's right at the EMA. And you're probably going to get another measured leg, at least, just like this one. You can see we actually went a couple of ticks higher before it turned down. But let me show you that. Notice you're off the lows here. You come up first entry, you make a correction. There's a second entry, and the first time it broke higher was right here, and that's where it's a failed second entry short. Technically, that probably went more than 4 ticks, but it's still a failure because you would expect it to go much further than what it did. And so the fact that it didn't go very far before it reverses real quick right at a possible key entry point gives you, actually you wouldn't have had that trend line yet. Actually, I drew that off those right there and drug it up here, and then there's your midline. I didn't make that. So you wouldn't have had a key entry point really other than the EMA right there. So you still do have kind of a key entry point. And then it runs up. It makes a little, notice all that resistance across there. It makes a little breakout pullback long. Again, off the thing. You could argue for that one to be green. Nice bullish bar. I didn't mark it. And I didn't see anything else in here I liked. You're really looking to go long, short here. Notice that new high. And there is a first entry, second entry. It fails. Big bearish bar, bearish engulfing bar. So that's another possibility. The only reason I didn't make it, wouldn't make it red, I'm going to make it green. And you could even argue for it to be red. It's just so late in the day. And it's going sideways. Notice all those bars stacking up. But it is a failed second entry long. And we did, the problem is we didn't, this looked like an overshoot. But I think it's two-tiered, and we didn't get back to the upper side yet. So the fact that we came up short, we're probably going to overshoot it that much, but it looked like we'd already done that about an equal amount here. And so you just don't know that it's going to get through that support right there and give you enough room. So I'm not crazy about it. And you can see it's still the same thing going on here. We're just going up and down, and you really need to wait on a higher low. Now we did get a higher low here and a reversal pattern here. This is after 2 o'clock, but I don't have a problem with that one being blue. Because notice the new low, first entry, second entry, it fails, and it gives you a nice bullish bar. It's just right at the 2 o'clock hour, so I'd be okay with that one. Plus, you're looking for a new high after the break of this channel right here. You got 2 legs down basically, and you may get another measured move similar to these first 2 legs. It doesn't happen, but it could happen, and that's what you would expect may be happening there. So, but that's what I saw today. And a little bit, not quite as many trades, still a lot of volatility, but just not quite as many trades today. So didn't take quite as long, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. I want to get home a little early today with my kids. So we'll be back again to do it tomorrow to wrap up our week. And I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.